We're going to need a lot more of those, Houdini. How about a little, just a nice little golf clap off the top? Just a little golf clap. Help! Big claps, because that's a lot of energy from the Bearcats. 109-54, the final score. They take down Arkansas Pine Bluff. Most points in a season opener since 2017. That was a really good team. It was a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, and your 20th ranked Cincinnati Bearcats have dreams of hopefully rectifying those wrongs from that team in the postseason tournament. Welcome to Chatterbox Bearcats, everyone. Chuck, Walter, and Houdini with you. Let's talk about this win, man. 55 points. Bearcats win. Bearcats cover. Good crowd. And the numbers, man. This team is so damn deep. How are we going to beat you? It's pick your poison.
Oh, yeah, man. And we started out a little sloppy, and that's, we did exactly what you're supposed to do as the 20th ranked team in the country. Arkansas Pine Bluff comes in. The hype around this program right now is massive. Started out a little sloppy, like I said. Wes Miller was pissed, up like 23 at half. You would have thought we were down 15. He was like, our defense is disgusting. I thought we made like maybe 2 good plays the entire half. And then we came out swinging.
I felt bad for Kelsey, man. The sideline reporter, she could only get one, and he was ready. He was fuming, man. He was pissed.
He was. I mean, but that's what we need, man. That's why we trust Wes. We have the faith in Wes because it doesn't matter if it's a tune-up game, doesn't matter if it's Arkansas Pine Bluff, it doesn't matter who we're playing. And we already know the gauntlet of this schedule that we're going to get into once we hit, December. So we got to take all the chance we can get. We got to get guys reps. And he wasn't taking that for granted at all. And then we came out swinging. Overall great game, and just the effort and intensity, even up like 40, where we got 12 guys diving on the floor. It was vintage UC, man. I loved it.
I wasn't box score hunting, and I normally do. I normally sit on the ESPN app in the entire game. I'm cognizant of what's going on, who's scoring. But today I only used my eyes, and I tried to figure out by the end of this, like, all right, Jizzle James was flirting with a triple-double, but no way he led the team. Skillings was all over the place. He's maybe an early pick to lead the team in scoring. Hickman had some buckets, and it was Seamus Lukosius, 20 points in the game to pace the way. Dan Skillings, 17 and 11, a double-double. Jizzle James, 12, 8, and 10. So a double-double for Jizzle James, and he was on triple-double watch with the 8 rebounds, just 2 away from getting it done. Bandego, 11 and 7. Mitchell, 10 and 8. Page, 9 and 1. CJ Frederick had 3. Tyler Betsy hit back-to-back threes for 6. Rayvon Griffith got in the game late. When he got it, he made the most of it, 8 points. And Hickman, I think I already mentioned it, 13 points, 4 rebounds. He was impressive. Individually, almost everyone was impressive. Now, we'll get to the parts of the game that weren't so great, but let's talk about the good first. What excited you about this game?
Knocking down threes, man. I think we finished 12 of 24, 50%. Not a bad clip from 3. And I know that we're going to have games where you struggle shooting, but to see the amount of shooters we can get on the floor at one time, it's been a while since I've seen a Bearcats roster with this many gunslingers on it, and that could keep you in games single-handedly. So I think that was the biggest thing, because I think the defense needed some work. Like you said, I think there was a couple, sloppy things. First game of the year, we expect this. But the shooting, man, and I don't see that going away. I don't think this is a flash in the pan. I know they were getting much more open shots than they're probably going to see when we get into, Big 12 play. But you got to love what you saw from a shooting perspective. We knew coming in that we brought in some guys that can really shoot the ball, and we saw it tonight.
Am I seeing the stats correctly here? Because you talk about the Bearcats' really good shooting, and I'm looking at the final numbers and seeing, 12 of 24.
You're looking at ESPN.
Much better. Dude, they always give me the wrong stats. I was looking at them reversed. I was seeing 24% from deep. That's actually Arkansas Pine Bluff. Yeah, man, 12 of 24 from UC. Lukosius hit 3 of them. Betsy hit 2 of his 3 tries. Rayvon hit a couple, actually hit 1 late. Hickman had 3 of them in the game. They didn't even need any to go down from CJ Frederick, who did hit a bucket late, had 3 points in the game. But they have shooters, man. The fact that this team can throw out a lineup, and who knows if this is a lineup that's going to be effective in the regular season or if they can even flirt with it. But Tyler Betsy, Connor Hickman, CJ Frederick, three best shooters on the team playing in the same lineup with Aarons and Page, who can bring the ball up the floor somewhat for a big man. At least he can run, maybe not bring it up, but he can run. And then Dan Skillings, who's another ball handler who can push the tempo as well. And then you just find your shooters. Betsy at 6'8" can get them off. Hickman can create. And then CJ Frederick, if you forget about him, he'll hit 45%. Now, Frederick, I don't know about you, he seems to be one of the odd men out in all of this. With the way Connor Hickman's playing, unless you plan on playing those two together, you love Betsy's size, you love his ability to space. I think Frederick may be someone that's going to be playing late in games for free throws and may have his moments here and there, but the role that he was expected to have on last year's team, I don't think that's going to be the role he's expected to have on this year's team. I think that's a pretty fair assessment one game in.
I think you're right. I think he might end up playing a little bit more than you might think, but he does kind of look like maybe the odd man out of this rotation once he starts to, Wes has a ridiculous amount of riches to deal with, and that's going to be his biggest job, is figuring out what guys to play, what lineups work the best. And obviously this non-conference slate, I think, is going to be a lot of him just experimenting with guys. But it's always nice to say, maybe we're in a shooting slump and you got CJ Frederick down on the bench. Hey, CJ, want to go in there and knock down 6 threes? Sure, why not? Always nice to have that. So I think CJ Frederick, he's not going to be, like last year, I thought he was going to be a vocal point. And that's definitely not going to be the case this year. But my God, you get a guy that can shoot 45% from three when you need him, I'll take it.
And this is without Day Thomas, mind you. Day Thomas, who's dealing with a foot injury.
I almost forgot.
He's been cleared. So all good there, but they're going to hold him out in a game that the Bearcats won by 55 points, make sure that he's 100% good to go. And when he's ready to go, that's another big addition that you're not even talking about. I would say my most, maybe not surprised, but the player that gave me the most confidence based on what I thought entering the season, I would say Connor Hickman. Looked really good defensively, 5 of 6 from the floor, 3 of 4 from deep, 23 minutes. Against Ohio State, he didn't show me a ton offensively. Show me that he could play some D, and that's my biggest takeaway from him. Can play D, and he's a high flyer, man. Threw one down late in the game. He's not your typical 6-foot guy with a comb over. So he was probably my most surprising player. You got someone different, same thing.
No, I loved what we saw from Hickman, man. I was pretty confident that he's going to be a guy that just consistent player. You know what you're going to get out of him. He's a smart player. He doesn't make dumb reads, all that good stuff. But there was some early chatter in some of the group chats, like, Aziz, same old story with Aziz. I loved what I saw from Aziz Bandego. He was finishing at the rim, and God forbid, he was finishing alley-oops. I remember it took 14 games last year for us not to just completely misread an alley-oop and throw it, 8 feet over his head. He was taking some that weren't even great passes, finish them. He finished 11, 5 for 5 free throw shooting. We'll get into that for a second. That wasn't fantastic, but I mean, hell, the guy, 7 and 11. That's all we need from Aziz, and I think he had 4 blocks. So I was happy to see, our anchor down low, putting in some work tonight, man.
Yeah, and the minutes total, no one went over 26 minutes in the game. It was Jizzle James who led the pack in that regard. Jizzle, 5 of 12 from the floor, 1 of 3 from deep. Missed some shots that I think he can knock. Look, let's put it this way. Jizzle James can get whatever he wants on the floor. It's just a matter of how much is he going to make them, and then what are his turnover numbers going to be like. Today only had 1 in the game. That's huge for him to go along with 10 assists. So Jizzle was an absolute floor general. And when I said before the season that this guy is he's a star. He isn't, maybe not this season. And maybe he's not Jizzle James. Or maybe he is Jizzle James, damn it. He's Jizzle James. Maybe he's not Ja Morant. Maybe that's an unfair expectation for the young man. But for God's sakes, he's the team leader. He's one of the team leaders. 26 minutes tonight to lead the way, and the 10 assists, just incredible stuff. The team best player, the alpha. That's a question we had a lot of last season. I don't know if we ever found the answer. I think it was probably CMOS by season's end, at least in terms of scoring. Then you can go Dan with rebounding and his impact on the game. But Skillings today, 17 points, 11 rebounds, hit a three-pointer, 6 of 11 from the floor, efficient, knocked down all his free throws in 23 minutes, turned it over twice, which was an Achilles heel last year. So 2 in a game that was pretty sloppy. You'll take that from Dan Skillings. Only 9 turnovers total for the Bearcats as a whole, despite it looked like more. Let's put it that way. I don't know if the box score is 100% correct, but Skillings, his game today, the alpha on this team, your reaction to that comment.
First, the Jizzle James. Did we see him? Did he ever get 10 assists last year? I don't know if I've seen him be so pass first after he didn't make a couple of his shots. I mean, at the end of the day, he went, 5 of 12. But then he started really looking for other people's shots, and we know that he can put up 20. We saw it at the end of last year. He finished, 23 and 21 the last 2 games of the year. To see him have 10 assists, and we got guys that could shoot all over the damn floor, I love that, man. And that Dan Skillings, he reminds me of the, at like a festival where they have that blow-up doll that just flies around like this the entire time. That guy,
the wacky, wavy, inflatable arm guy, right?
That's Dan Skillings. That could give him, 17 and 10. Yeah, he is. It's so odd that the way that his 7-foot wingspan can just run into the paint and kind of, gyration around and lay it in. And he was doing the same stuff he did last year, man. So scrappy. Hopefully, I think the 3-point shot is going to be his biggest thing, like to take the next leap. We didn't really see that tonight, but it's going to come down to, who's going to be our go-to guy at the end of the season or at the end of games, right? When you got Lukosius, you got Jizzle James, and Dan Skillings. I think it'll be between those 3. I think we just got to see how it plays out. Maybe it'll be depending on the game. But hopefully we can find a guy that we want to go to, because I think they showed it, the graphic. We had 16 games within 5 points last year, and we went 7 and 9. So that clearly comes down to who's getting the ball at the end of the game, who can be the guy that puts the dagger on the other team. We got to figure that out, but I like where we stand now, I'll tell you that.
I wouldn't hate a potential starting lineup shakeup or just combination shakeups as the season goes along. And Wes, he knows the team better than us. Although, God bless, we had a gripe to pick with Wes last year with some of the lineups he was throwing up late in the season. It's like, get Larkin and Reynolds off the floor at the same damn time. And it took a little too long for that. But I digress. That's last year. We don't bring up the past. We just talk about a 55-point win. But that starting lineup with Bandago, Mitchell, and we haven't even mentioned Dylan Mitchell yet. We'll get to him in 2 seconds. But Mitchell, Bandago, Dan Skillings, I get what he's doing. He's playing his 5 best players. It was like, it's the strength and numbers issue. It's what the Warriors are going through right now with their, roster, running out Kuminga and Wiggins or whatever in the same lineup because they're 2 of the best players, but it doesn't necessarily work. That's what I'm wondering with this starting lineup. Would it make more sense to flip Connor Hickman in there, give you some more shooting, and then that way bring one of these guys? Don't know who it would be. It'd be tough to bring Skillings off the bench, but someone off the bench that just rounds out the lineups a little more. I'm sure analytics will play into that, eye test, and just some good old-fashioned coaching. So we'll keep an eye on that as the season goes along. But I teased it a little bit. Dylan Mitchell, 10 points, 8 rebounds, was the star of the show in the Ohio State game. I just had so many good words about him. He just moves like a NBA talent. The way he moves, you just watch him, and he's a good finisher, but he's not quite the scorer that he needs to be to get to that level. You can't really give him the ball and expect him to necessarily make a play off the dribble, at least yet. Did go 5 of 11, shot 2 threes, missed them, shot 2 free throws, missed them. So he's going to have to work on his shooting. And it was alluded to during the game that this isn't really, the role that he's used to. It's going to take him some time to really figure out what his role is. What is his role? And do you agree with that, like, NBA talent with the way he moves statement?
Yeah, I mean, he's no question about the NBA talent. It's about him putting it all together. Now, Texas was playing him, and they alluded to it on the broadcast, more of a slasher guy, not trying to look for his own offense necessarily. It sounds like
slasher guy. That's
Wes
the only
Miller.
Analysis you could. That's analysis you can only get on Chatterbox Bearcats. He's a slasher
100%.
guy.
He cuts to the rim. He finishes alley-oops. We've already seen that even in the exhibition game. That guy can finish a damn alley-oop with the best of them. But it sounds like Wes wants him to develop on the offensive side and actually, have, dribble moves to the basket, get a mid-range jump shot, all that good stuff. And I thought we saw just in the first game some growing pains with him. He was a little bit sloppy, had a couple bad turnovers. I think he started like 1 for 6. I'm glad he got it going a little bit, and not to bury the lead, but the CMOS behind the back and transition alley-oop to Dylan Mitchell. Woo! That was a sight to see. That could get you right off your couch. I don't care if it's Monday. I was fired the hell up seeing that because I think we're going to see a whole lot of that. And Dylan Mitchell, the sky's the limit for the kid. We'll just see, can he develop that shot? Because those 2 threes and those free throws, they weren't even I think he hit the backboard first on one of his free throws. So we got to clean that up. But, I mean, all things considered, the guy's a freak.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, you see visions of the future where he could be the guy. Like, he's got a pretty stroke. Per Ryan Hammer, who knows everything about college basketball, he was shooting well at the combine with no one on him. So I don't know what it is when the fans are in the stands, it throws off his depth perception, but it just has not been part of his game thus far. But even without the raw scoring or the natural scoring ability, he still has the raw ability to affect the game with his length, with his size, with his speed, and his ability to push, man. He's a lot better of a handler than I think people give him credit for.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's got the tools. It's all there. Just got to put it all together because no, there's going to be games where he's our best player. I'm sure of it through this long of a season and a schedule like the Big 12 because he can match up athletically with anyone on the planet. So we'll just see what happens there. But I do agree with you. I think he's got all the tools and the handles. Everything is there. He just got to put it all together.
You want the good news or the bad news when it comes to free throws?
What good news is there possibly to say? But let's hear it.
Well, the bad news is they started off 1 of 9 from the free throw line, which is just awful. Baden, Roger Bacon, Taft High School, Sycamore, Moeller High. The Elder Panthers may shoot 1 of 9, but like these high school teams are hitting way better than 1 for 9. Bearcats start the game 1 for 9. I guess the good news is they finished 13 of 23, so do the math there. They went 10 of 14 over there, which is not that great in the first place. But 13 of 23 in a Division I basketball game, there is going to be a matchup at some point this season where we are very angry on this postgame show, breaking the fake brick behind me due to some just anemic free throw shooting. And here's the thing, against Ohio State, weren't they knocking them down? Weren't we? I think that was one of your post-game points.
They were. And I think the biggest thing is, I mean, like I said, Dylan Mitchell, I'm not sure where we stand with him at the free throw line. Aziz Bandego, we saw it all last year. He went 1 for 4. And I think that was the biggest thing. The big guys were getting to the line. Arrington Page also. Thus far, it's early. Don't trust the guy at the line. But yeah, because it might come down to them just hacking the shit out of our bigs. And if you can't knock down free throws, and somebody even mentioned it in the group chat, no, that's not UC basketball. We do not make free throws. We never have. I don't remember the last time UC finished in the top 150 in free throw percentage. So this might be an Achilles heel. And like I said, having 17 5-point games last year, you got to be better than 1 for 9 from the line. You just have to.
All right, so this is going to be pretty irrelevant for the morning podcast, but 11:57 to go in the game. Texas Southern 54 and Xavier 53. So if you are listening in the morning, we could do one of two things, Houdini. We can just go Joe Rogan and for the next 45 minutes talk about UC and get you the final on air, or we can just tell the people that when you're done driving, if you're driving, and we are free and available wherever you get your audio podcast, or you can check us out on YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces. But when you're done driving, look up that score and see if Xavier lost to Texas Southern. That would be a very, very delightful gift early in the season for UC. But UC goes for 109 points, man. And I don't think this is a fluke. They went for over 80 against Ohio State. They are not the Mick Cronin rock fight teams of past. And I get it. We've said this before. We've watched many. I remember John Brannon's first game against Ohio State, 2 possessions in, we got a Javen Cumberland bucket, and I think Vogt scored on the block. And it was quick movement, and I was like, this is it. We have our disciple. It's John Brannon. He's saved us from rock fights, no more. And they couldn't figure it out with that new offense all season long. So we'll see. But as of right now, is there any reason to believe that this can't be a really solid offensive team? It's actually defense
Absolutely
that was
not.
the issue tonight.
Yeah, and it's Arkansas Pine Bluff, so I don't think guys were playing their hardest necessarily on the defensive end, or maybe not hardest isn't the right way to put it, but they were just a little sloppy, like getting beat on back doors, things like that. And Dylan Mitchell had a ridiculous recovery on one of those where he swatted it with his left hand going right. Um, but they're going to need to clean that up. They're going to need to absolutely clean that up. But from an offensive side, I can't imagine that we're not going to be one of the most high-powered offenses in the country with this many guys. And like I said, if somebody has an off night, I mean, hell, Rayvon Griffith came in for 8 minutes and had 8 points. I think, I guess the question for you, were you shocked that, and I guess we saw it kind of in the exhibition game against Ohio State, that he seems to be at the very end of the rotation, if in the rotation at all. He only played 8 minutes. We were up 40 when he got in. I was a little surprised because what we've seen, and it's only been, 16 total minutes in an exhibition in Arkansas Pine Bluff. I think the guy can make an impact.
Yeah, he looks good. If everything we heard in the offseason is true and the rose-colored glasses were off when Wes was speaking about him, and he says that he was actually the leading offensive and defensive rebounder, he has a stroke. Like, he can shoot it. He could do it at high school. Now, is he an elite shooter? No, but he can knock down threes. Did it again today, hit his first one against Ohio State. He can keep you honest, hit his 2 free throws. Like, he has a stroke. Can put the ball on the deck a little bit. So it all comes down to, like, how can he defend? If he can pick up the defensive schemes and knows what he's doing, there's no reason to think that he's not going to climb his way up in the rotation. I don't think there's any reason to think that, by the end of the year, he's not getting more minutes than CJ Frederick. I don't know about Josh Reed, but aside from that, that's the issue. They just have so many good players to, like, who would he climb? But the nice thing is you can go old Bob Huggins, man. He would go into the bench. He would grab Ryan Patswald from time to time during one of the season, and he would just throw him in there because he felt decent about Patswald, despite being, or was it Pat Watt? I don't know. It was one of the two. Felt decent about him because obviously walk-ons aren't very good, and he felt good enough to throw him in for like 90 seconds. I think Jamal Lucas was the same way, where they would go to those guys at the end of the bench, and those are some blasts from the past. I mean, if you're rocking with the Bearcats, Ryan Patswald and Jamal Lucas, but not Hall of Famer Jamal Lucas, Cincinnati's Jamal Lucas. But that's kind of what he can do, right? He can go to the end of the bench. He can look for different players that are going to step up because you're going to have those doldrum away games in Stillwater, a game in the non-conference against their next game, Morehead State, whatever it may be, where someone's just not on their A game, for whatever reason. They didn't sleep the night before, whatever. It's game one. You could throw anyone in there, man. You can throw most of these guys in there. We talked about it with their final five. I mean, it's Tyler Betsy, it's Rayvon Griffith. It's 4 stars. It's like Jizzle James. It's literally a lineup of 4 stars. They're just young. They're all going to be really good players, in my opinion. Betsy's someone we didn't mention. He's got the green light for a freshman.
It sure does. And
Sure does.
if he can knock down open shots, man, he's 6'8" or whatever. He's got the length, and he's got a great looking jump shot, all things considered. I mean, the guy just looks like he could hit from deep, and he does. So I think he's going to certainly have a rotation spot in this roster, and the amount of great things Wes has said about him, you got to believe that. What does CJ Anthony have to do to get in? If I'm a walk-on, I'm like, wait, we're up 50? I couldn't even get any burn today? He couldn't get anything? Like, what? We got to be up 70 now for our walk-ons to get in?
I had Canes for lunch. I got to burn some calories. What do we have to do?
It's like, what the hell is this? So, yeah, no, I mean, dude, the roster is loaded. It's going to come down to, because you're right, there's going to be times where Wes is going to have to go deeper into his bench. Maybe somebody's having an off night. It's keeping some of these guys, like you said, who are massive talents, happy with the minutes that they're getting. And some of them aren't going to get as much minutes as they think they should. But if we know Wes, I think maybe his greatest attribute is keeping morale high, keeping guys locked in. So I think he's going to do great at that. But that might be the toughest part of this gig right now, is maintaining the players' morale if they're not playing 25 minutes a game.
That was the whole premise of the intro video to the season that you were a big star in, man. They found a few of your sound bites, so you can give them something on the show tonight. Maybe they're plucking them all year long. But it was that premise. It was like, hey, because it was Fran Fraschilla asked him at Big 12 Media Day, like, I feel like this team has 8 starters. How do you balance this thing out? And Wes, with some just iconic music in the backgrounds, like, I'll tell you what, we got a team of unselfish guys, and the one thing that I tell them is if we all get there together, everyone will get where they want to go individually as they're bench pressing and sprinting on Nippert on the turf. And I love it, man. I love it. 2 feet in. They've been saying it for a long time. The issue has been they haven't had good enough players to have 2 feet in, with all due respect. I mean, look where some of the players have transferred over the years, and look what they've done at their next stop. But this team right now seems like they have a lot of different players that can be 2 feet in, that can affect the game in a high-level way. Avine Zealot, I know he's from France. He joined the team late. Was expected to redshirt this season, and he played today. So the red shirt may be off. Got 2 minutes in the game. I saw a little Odio Guama in him, which means if that's the case, I don't know what he's going to do this year, but he's an older guy for his class, was captain of the French under-20 national team, high motor guy. We'll see if he can provide anything defensively. At the very least, he has a 6'11 frame for a position that's now missing Tyler McKinley, and you're down to Arrington Page and Aziz Bandago is the only 2 guys that have that sort of back to the basket and just size in general to guard other teams' 5. So doesn't hurt to have him on the squad. We'll see if he does anything this year. Any other thoughts you want to get to, Houdini, before we say hey to the chat? Natty Ron, Matt Myers, Nick Niehaus, our co-host, riding home from the game. Natty Light in hand. He had to ditch it with the usher. But had a few of them, had a good time. And boy, is it nice seeing Bearcats basketball back with the 20 by their name, man. I'll tell you what. It's like a kid on Christmas. I feel great.
Yeah, what was the ESPN Plus broadcast that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen last year, where they just ranked us for no reason? They made us 22 in the country. I can't remember who. We barely won. Howard.
It was all Howard. Everything happened with Howard. We got the waves.
Yeah, it's the last time we saw the ranking next to UC's name, and it was just because some intern had no idea, just said, screw it, they look like they're probably 22. We'll make them 22. Now we're actually number 20 for the first time in 10 years since Cronin was here. And then I know it means nothing. We got to actually compete in these games and win a lot of basketball games because this schedule is going to get rough. But just seeing it, it's beautiful. The Jordan's back. Everything's back. I just feel like the Cats are right back on track, man. And I'm ecstatic about it. I really am, because this team looks very fun. Even some of Cronin's teams, man, that were good, but we'd win 48-44. It was brutal watching some of those games, man. You'd come out of there with 2 black eyes, like, what the hell just happened? We won by 4 against St. John's or whatever. So this is going to be fun. Offense is explosive. Our defense is so lengthy. We're in for a good year.
Time to stand up. Cats are back, and we will be back on Friday at Cincinnati and Morehead State. Houdini, I know it's tough, man. I know it's a Friday game, but you got to be there, right? It's game 2. We're going to be there all season long. Niehaus did his job tonight. He's passing around business cards. So if you're listening to the show via a business card at Fifth Third Arena, that's what we do, baby. That's what we do. Teamwork makes
Boots on the ground.
Just like the Cats. Spread the wealth.